Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to my bookish world. I'm Alex, and today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up. So I had extremely ambitious goals in the month of March, considering that I had like a week for spring break, and even then it bled into April, so I don't know what I was thinking, but I ended up reading, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books, and I started 2 in the month of March, which I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty good. Now, actually, none of these books were on my physical TBR, which is kind of sad because, I mean, not that there were a lot of books on my physical TBR, but anyway, I tried to read at least one book a month on my physical TBR, although I guess technically one of them is. Let me just get into it. So the first book that I read was We Are the Ashes, We Are the Fire by Joy McCullough. This is a novel. I read Joy McCullough's book, Blood, Water, Paint a few years ago, and I really enjoyed it. That's told in verse. But this follows this girl whose older sister has been going through this trial over the last year, her rape trial, trying to get justice because she was raped. And when things kind of go not the way that they want, it kind of makes the family obviously upset. But the youngest sister really is one of the ones that's dealing with it the hardest because she's been really involved in the but in the social awareness about her sister. So basically, this girl meets another girl that goes to her school and they become friends, and she learns about this woman who is kind of a legend in history who used to like kill rapists and awful human beings. Anyway, obviously trigger warning for sexual assault and rape because it's very heavily focused on it, obviously. I gave this book a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I personally think that it's a really devastating book. I mean, yeah, the subjects that it's about are obviously very hard to read, but I think it's just such a great book and that everybody should read it or something like this. I don't know. I just think that Joy McCullough has a really great way of dealing with characters who just dealing with really tough subjects, but in a way that's inspiring. And I think that this book does a really great job of that, so I definitely recommend it. The next book that I read is one that I technically read as an e-arc on NetGalley, but I own it now because it just came out. That is Lost in the Neverwoods by Aiden Thomas. So this book came out like March 23rd. And by the way, I gave this a 4 stars. So this follows a girl named Wendy who went missing like 5 years prior with her 2 younger brothers or 3 younger brothers. And they were missing for like 6 months, and then Wendy came back, but her brothers did not. And so 5 years later, there are missing kids that are starting to go missing again in her city, and so in her town, and so people are looking at her. And this mysterious boy comes into town. It is kind of a Peter Pan retelling. I wouldn't call it a retelling, more like a reimagination, like what happened after. But I really recommend it. I don't know. Aiden Thomas just has a very heartbreaking writing style, but also just so mysterious and interesting, and his characters are so three-dimensional, and I just absolutely adored this. Aiden Thomas has definitely been working. Let me check pronouns. Yeah. Aiden is quickly moving to be one of my auto-buy authors, and I am just very excited to see what they put out next. I mean, Cemetery Boys, I adored. This book, I adored. But also thank you to NetGalley and the publishers for approving me for an e-arc. I obviously really enjoyed it. I bought it, and I'm hoping to get my pre-order gifts in the mail soon-ish, whenever possible. The next book that I read was Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole. So this book follows a girl who is getting her Bailey. Okay, my door just opened. I thought my dog was coming inside, but no, that's fine. But anyway, it follows a girl who I believe is getting her PhD, maybe her master's, in I don't know the word, but basically like virus hunting. I can't say it. And this guy comes around and really piques her interest. But then she finds out that he is actually the prince of a country that she is from. She was adopted, or no, she was in the foster care system. And so it's kind of about her trying to get over like feelings that she has for this guy, but also like, you know, learning kind of how to be a princess. It's such a good story. This is the first book that I've read by Alyssa Cole off of Zoe's recommendation from Zoe's All Booked. These are like her absolute favorite books. I give this a 3.5 stars. I will say that it moved kind of slow, and the plot kind of irritated me because, like, I don't know. I feel like usually with romance novels, the breakup is like way towards the end of the novel, but this one like was right in the middle, and I don't know, that bothered me. But that's really it. It was also just a little bit of slow pacing, but I'm currently reading the second book, A Duke by Default, and that's moving way faster. I literally just started it on Monday. It's Wednesday that I'm filming this, and I got 40% of the way through it yesterday at work. So yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm interested to read more of these adult romances. I feel bad, but I haven't read enough adult romances with a Black protagonist, and so I'm trying to fix that. And if you are lacking in that area, I really recommend it. Also, if you see me messing with my arm, it's because I got my first COVID shot today, vaccine, and it hurts so bad. Oh my gosh. But luckily, that's like the only bad side effect. And the next book I read was actually kind of disappointing, and this was Layla by Colleen Hoover. So this book I got from my library after waiting for it for like 2-3 months. And I'm really upset because I thought it was going to be so much better than it was, and truly I think it was there. Like, it could have been really good, but the ending, oh my god. The plot, the ending, the reveals were just so far-fetched to the point that it irritated me, and I don't think it made much sense. Maybe that's more me, but yeah, I give this book 2.5 stars. Basically, it follows this guy who falls in love with this girl named Layla, and then some mysterious tragic accident happens, and so they go off months later to the place where they first met to try to reconnect. But then weird things starts happening in the house, and they believe they might be haunted. It's just so stupid. I will say there are a ton of trigger warnings for this book. Emotional abuse, I wouldn't say physical abuse, but a toxic relationship. I really look up the trigger warnings because there are a lot, and it's really messed up. But yeah. The next book I read was Once Upon a Quinceañera by Monica Hira Gomez. This is a debut novel, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. It basically follows this girl who is a senior. Well, she just finished her senior year of high school, and she is trying to finish this program so she can get her diploma because of a previous incident that happened. And she is working at this place called Dreams Come True, which is like they dress up as princesses and go to parties, when her cousin, who's rich and like kind of a jerk, is having her quinceañera, and she hires this company where the main character is working to perform. But also at the same time, her ex-fling is working with her. And so I love this story. I think it was just so cute. I I probably read this pretty fast. I will say I did read this pretty fast as well. And I stayed up late to finish it. It was just really cute, and like I love the family relationships and the friendships in this, and I recommend it. I'm definitely excited to see what Monica puts out next because I definitely thought that this was just such a cute novel, and I totally recommend it. The next book that I read slash finished in the month of March was Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. This comes out June 1st of this year, and I did get an e-arc provided by the publisher through NetGalley, so thank you guys for that. And I gave this book a 3.5 stars. So Nicola Yoon, I've read two and a half of her books. I've read Everything, Instructions for Dancing, obviously, and I've read parts of The Sun Is Also a Star. I just never finished it, but maybe someday. And like, she's not my favorite author, that's for sure, but she does have some cute little contemporaries. I will say this book was a lot sadder than I was expecting, especially the end. Trigger warnings for grief, especially because just wow. But it's just I don't know how to describe it. Basically, it follows this girl whose parents are recently divorced, and the main character is having a really hard time believing in love again. And so, when she finds this book called Instructions for Dancing, and she goes to return it to the dance studio where it came from, she meets this boy, and she gets roped into doing this competition. And it's kind of like this healing thing for her, but when she gets this book, she gets these visions when she sees any couple that are in love kiss for the first time, and she can see the beginning, the most important parts of the relationship, and the end. And I think this book would have been fine without that element because it just didn't add much to the story. I mean, like, yeah, it added some, especially towards the ending, but like I just think it was stupid, and it's just definitely not my favorite thing. The writing was great, the pacing was really great, medium, not the fastest, but it was a good book, but that element just kept tripping me up, and I think that it would have been so much better. And lastly, the last book that I read in the month of March that I finished was Perfect on Paper by Sophie Gonzalez. So this is my first book that I've read by Sophie Gonzalez. I know she has like another book out, maybe two, but she has only Mostly Devastated, which is on my TBR. I just haven't gotten to it yet. But I definitely will be picking it up hopefully soon. But Perfect on Paper follows this girl who runs this relationship advice thing through her school. It's completely anonymous. But this guy finds out, the school's bad boy finds out, and she is tasked with helping him getting him and his ex-girlfriend back together. And through that they start to get to know each other, you know, things happen, romance, I wouldn't say enemies to lovers, but kind of like you're annoying to lovers. And it's just really cute. There's a ton of LGBTQ plus rep in here. The main character is bisexual. Her sister is trans. Her best friend is gay. She's part of this queer and questioning group where there are multiple people who are gay, trans. There's a character who is coming to terms with their asexuality, with being asexual, and so I just think that's really great. It did come out, I believe, pretty recently that the author is bisexual, so yeah, but I think everything about this story was well written. I gave it a 4.5 stars. It didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but it was pretty darn close, and I definitely recommend this. It came out earlier in March, and yeah, I loved it. I will say I did start 2 books in March. One I've already finished, one I am still working on. So I finished Chain of Iron. I started Chain of Iron by Cassandra Clare, which is up there somewhere. I just don't feel like getting it. and I'll talk about that more in my April wrap-up since I did finish it like the 5th day of April. I don't think it's fair to talk about it in my whatever month this is in my March wrap-up. And then I also started Nevertheless She Persisted, 48 Voices of Defiance, Strength, and Courage. And I'm over halfway through that, but I will also talk about that in my April wrap-up. Who knows? Maybe I'll be lucky enough and I'll get to do 2 April wrap-ups, but because I have a lot of books over there that I want to read, and that's not even all of them because I can't help myself. So thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Follow my social media down below. That's Twitter, Instagram, and Goodreads. And I will see you guys next time. Goodbye!